since then, one of the ladies who grew up on the campus 50 or 60 years ago as a missionary kid went back to see the work and said, I will stay here for 2 years because she knows some of the languages and she's familiar with the area. She said, I'm going to stay here 2 years and I'll see what the Lord has in this. And those 2 years have come and gone, and she's decided to stay. So she is the one that is putting together, if you go on Facebook, it's the Jonathan's House Chronicles, or Chronicles of Jonathan's House. And you can see all the pictures. But there are 40 kids in the school, there are 400 kids-ish in the school part that get a meal a day, and almost 40 kids in the orphanage. And they have, they have a lot going on. They are training someone to be a pastor for the church that they planted, one of the kids who grew up there. So with Donna Bixby, she remembers what it used to be like, and she knows what needs to happen from an American perspective. And she's one of the long-termers that's there. So how we have Ricky and Carlin Blaha here. Donna's brother is planting a church in San Francisco area right now with Ricky and Carlin. So Ricky has been to Central African Republic, done some electrical work there. Or you could just give to Jonathan's house, and that means the common pot would be a little lower, but your gift would be matched. So I'll leave that between you and the Lord, how you want to work out. But it's really exciting, and I think your heart will be moved to a ministry. I mean, this is the very most central part of Africa, the neediest people, and the least amount of influence and help from Western culture. And I think what a gift to have Donna, someone who understands the people and the culture there so that the people can look to, but also she can train people so that when she moves on or passes away, it won't be a ministry that just folds. There will be something that's given to national indigenous people. So let's pray, and we'll turn our time over to Ricky and Carlin. Must be out with the kids right now.
Carlin's right there.
There they are, back there by Alan. Heavenly Father, thank you for your great love. I pray that we would not be hoarders of the great gifts you've given us, but that we would look at the people around us in our neighborhoods with generosity of grace and forgiveness and mercy, and that we would consider our brothers and sisters in Christ in Central African Republic and their great financial needs and the great opportunity they have to be able to share the gospel with their neighbors. And I pray, Lord, that you would raise up people in our midst, in the midst of our sister churches this morning, in Cambridge and Stock Center, Sartell and Fergus Falls, and that you would bless our services today, that your name would be honored through the first Sunday of our missions conference.
Thank you. I might need to get in...
So good to be here this morning with you all. My name is Ricky, and my wife is back here. Her name is Carlin, and then the one that's making a lot of noise, he's 1 year old. That's Leland, and then my son Hudson is on the end down there. He's 10. But we're happy to be here with you. Yes, we have been church planting. I am one of the church planting pastors in Fremont, California, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's very far from Africa. But when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a missionary, and I always wanted to go to Africa. And so the fact that I'm here being able to talk with you today about Africa, and actually the fact that I'm in California is just kind of ironic, but I'm glad to be here with you. And I actually kind of feel like I'm in a position that perhaps a lot of people that you might be hearing from aren't, and that is, I'm not here representing what I'm doing in my ministry, and I'm not asking for your support for me. Not that anybody would do that selfishly, but I'm looking at it saying this is a worthy ministry that is happening in one of the neediest places of the world, And you all, as a church, have been faithfully supporting this ministry for years. And I just want to encourage you to keep doing that, because what's happening at Jonathan's house is pretty amazing. I hope that after our time this morning, the presentation that I'll give here, and then after our morning service, that you'll feel that way as well. Because I do believe that we have a responsibility as Christians, as people who have been redeemed, to consider. There's a verse up here, pure religion. This is from James 1, pure religion and undefiled before God and Father, and the Father is this: to visit the fatherless, the widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unstained from the world. James basically gives us a little bit of a hint as to what pure religion is to look like. And the two people groups that he points out that are specifically important to God are orphans and widows. They're helpless. They're people who are needy, and they need people to come alongside them. And we see Jesus in his ministry, how he served so many needy people in his ministry as they came to him and they asked him for his help. So I'm excited to be able to be here with you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I'm going to do now in this time, and then I'm going to do something a little bit different during the morning service. During this time, I want to share with you a little bit about my experience in going to Africa and what it was like for me to go there and to visit. I have a couple videos that I put together that I shared with my church when we got back, and I want to share those videos with you so you can see some on-the-ground footage of what it was like for us to be there. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of a kind of like what to look for. I want to give you a little bit of heads up as to what to look for as you're seeing this. So we flew out of San Francisco, and this first video that I'll be showing is the journey that it took to get there. It's a very far away place. It's very, very different from here. And it takes a lot to get there, and thank God for modern conveniences that we are able to actually travel from here to a place like the Central African Republic. I mean, just 2 days ago, I was on the West Coast in California, and I was able to travel out here to be with you. So we have the modern conveniences at our fingertips that we can take advantage of, and we were able to travel out there. But I traveled from San Francisco, which is one of the one of the wealthiest places in the world, the Silicon Valley, where all your technology comes from. Google, Apple, Facebook, all those companies are right down the road from where I live. And we went to arguably the poorest country in the world. And it's a night and day difference. And I think it's important for us to consider the dynamic of that, because if you live in America, how many of you live in America? All right. If you live in America, you're in the top 1% of the richest people in the world. So it's not just about us, it's not just about us living in Silicon Valley, or it's not just about, certain people living in certain cities, New York City. We, as Americans, are very wealthy. We have a lot that other people do not have. And so when we were traveling there, one of the things that you'll see in not in the first video. In the first video, you'll just see the journey there. Bob Bixby he and I planted the church that we're in, Redeemer Church, 9 years ago in Fremont, California, and a brother used to live there in Fremont, down the road from where I live. Yep. We planted a church 9 years ago, but Bob grew up in the Central African Republic, and he grew up in the house that Donna lives in and that you'll see in the video. And so for him, it was the first time that he went back since he was a teenager to be able to go back to this house that his family lived in. He was telling me all about how his dad built the front porch and all of these things that he remembers as a little boy playing in this exact location. And then his sister Donna is now leading the Central African side of the ministry. So there's the nonprofit that is here in the U.S., and then there's the African side. And so the nonprofit here in the U.S. supports Jonathan's house in the Central African Republic. So what I want to show you first is just to give you a little bit of a journey from the United States, and we'll leave from San Francisco, and we'll go all the way to the Central African Republic. it. Gotta get the footage.
Get the footage of the old man.
That one's not checked though.
His nephew, and it was myself. We went, and this was last year, 2022. After Bob's and Donna's parents left, after they left the Central Africa, they became missionaries in France for a long time. So Bob's brother was actually in France when we passed through there to be able to see his brother, who's currently a missionary there. When we got to Bangui, which is the capital city, they didn't want me taking any videos or photos. We had to go through separate security. It's a huge security concern for Americans coming over. And so we had to go through a certain way. They said, put all your cameras and everything away and just do what we say. So this is when we finally got in the car with the people that picked us up at the airport. This is the biggest city in the country, Bangui, downtown. While we were there, the country ran out of gasoline. There was no gasoline, and so there was hordes of people trying to get gas. But everybody, if they can afford it, they just drive a motorbike. Hardly any cars or vehicles. If you have a vehicle, you're pretty well off. And I don't know how many of you heard the need for raising money for buying a vehicle for Jonathan's house. But the roads that you'll see here are why they need a four-wheel drive vehicle. This audio is recorded from their church Sunday service. They're singing in Sango. The vehicle in front there is the one that Donna's been driving the whole time, and we rented the truck that we're in to carry. We needed all of the space to carry all the 27 bags that we had.
And you're on your way to Jonathan's.
Yes. Yeah, so this is the road that leads up to Jonathan's house right here.
How long were you on the road?
We were on the road for 3 hours.
Oh my.
3 hours. Yeah, feel free to ask questions. This was after the dry season. They have a rainy season, a dry season. This is after the dry season. This is how bad it is. When it's a rainy season, these roads are just flooded out, and vehicles get stuck all over the place. They have a Bible Institute on the property, and we'll talk about that. Well, they have a med clinic, a Bible Institute, and then they have the children's school there on the property as well. So the med clinic is straight ahead, right there, and I'll show pictures of that later. And the school is on the right over here.
Remember we talked about going up to the building. Bonjour. Bonjour.
I'll tell you what they're saying there in just a second.
Bonjour.
Je suis félicité. I'm félicité.
Félicité?
Oui.
Bonjour.
Ricky.
Comment t'appelles-tu?
You.
Benjamin.
Benjamin.
Elle, c'est Elodie.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Je m'appelle
Bonjour.
Félicité.
Félicité?
Oui.
Enchanté.
So a couple things I'll point out there is, so the travel there is very difficult. One of the things that we didn't show because they told me to put my camera away is we went through probably about 5 different guard crossings where the military patrols and they check your passports. Most of the time you have to pay them whatever they ask in order to be able to pass through. Ironically, and this is something that I'll talk a little bit more about later, ironically, they have a very, very high, I will even say inappropriately high respect for pastors. And I'll tell you a little bit now. I might say a little bit more about that later. 100 years ago, the Central African Republic had a lot of missionaries that came in to the country. And as whether it was Americans or French or wherever they were coming from, they came in and ministered, they preached the gospel, but the white missionaries were very segregated. They would not allow the Africans into their house. They would keep them completely separated from them, and they would only go out to teach and then come back. So it was almost like a hierarchy mentality that was lived out among the people. So as churches were planted, people would desire to become pastors, and they would treat themselves in that position in the same way that the white missionaries behaved. And so they would actually build, there was one pastor's house we went to, and he had a big fence around it with barbed wire, and they're like, he lives in there, and he can do whatever he wants. He has all the respect and the honor from the people. So there's kind of a very messed up view of some of the ways that they think about Christianity. Matter of fact, we almost got in trouble in one place because we were traveling from, and I'll show this in this morning service. We were traveling to help some babies who were dying, and we traveled into the jungle a couple hours, and we were going through this road, this guard crossing, and I was sitting in the bed of the truck, and everyone else was in the front, and they were asking, who are these people? Where are they coming from? And they said, well, he's a pastor. And they were like, no, you're not. You're lying. He's not a pastor. You would not treat him with such disrespect and have him sit in the back of the truck like that. You're lying. And they basically called us out, and we had to go through this whole interrogation where they were trying to basically say, there's no way that you would treat a pastor this way by letting him sit in the back of the truck. And we finally we were able to get through. Donna actually got out and said, look, we are going to save 3 babies that are dying, and the longer we wait here, their life is in your hands. So you either let us through, or and so she paid them whatever they asked for, and then we went on through. But they have a weird disrespect, or a weird respect for pastors within the country. But one of the things that Robert Bixby, Bob and Donna's dad, was known for was he was one of the ones who actually allowed the Africans into his house. He actually caused a little bit of gossip in the compound because he would allow them into the house. He would go into where they were at, and everyone else thought it was just taboo. You can't do that. This is not the way we do things. And so his legacy gained a lot of respect while he was in Africa. Now that Donna's there, they remember her dad, and they give her the respect that they gave to her dad. They still remember him. When Bob showed up, he wore, I don't know if you saw the hat that he had on. It was kind of like a fedora, or it was like a straw hat. His dad wore that hat all the time. And when he showed up, they all remembered him. They're like, we remember you when you were a boy, and your dad wore that hat all the time. And this has been, I don't know how many years, 20, 30 years since he's been there. They all have memories of Donna and Bob's dad as a missionary there in Africa. So we went through all these guard crossings, and then when we got up to the top of the hill, what happened was Donna got back from Bangui. She had been gone for a few days, and she went to take one of the little babies. Well, one of the things that Donna's tried to do at Jonathan's house is trying to teach him about cleanliness. Because one of the problems in the country is that there's so much disease that's transferred because of just not knowing anything about hygiene at all. Not even good hygiene, just like taking care of anything, washing your hands, because there's so much disease everywhere. So one of the ways they want to take care of the babies is if you're going to handle a baby, you need to wash your hands, and then you can take the baby. And so she gets out of the vehicle and walks over to take the baby, and one of the nannies is like, no, you can't hold her. You haven't washed your hands. And she's the one scolding them all the time, and she got scolded. So that's what they were laughing about there. And then one of the nannies told the other nanny what happened, and they thought it was really, really funny. But that was what was going on. So real quick, any questions about what you saw in this part of the video? Yes? Oh, you did? Well, that was a good idea. Did you get to sleep? Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. I bet, can you imagine flying that flight like 5 times all in a row? Can you imagine flying that flight 5 times in a row? That's about how long we were in a plane. That's pretty amazing. Yes, sir.
Audrey and I went to once.
Oh, good. At times, it's almost as hot in Arizona as it is in Central African Republic. Yes.
I understand the 5 times.
So it was about 5 hour. It was about 4 hours to Atlanta, and then another 6 or 7 hours to Paris, and then another 6 to 7 hours to the Central African Republic. So, and then it was only about maybe an hour or 2 layover in each location. Yeah, it was basically a 24-hour period. Yeah, when we arrived there, it was morning the next day. Yeah, we had been going the entire time. Yeah. What's that?
What's the time difference?
I think it's I have to think. From California, it's 13 hours. So from here, it's probably 11 hours, I think. Or no, it's less than that. It's not that. It's 10 hours different from California, I think. What's it from here?
We're 2 hours different.
I just subtracted 2 hours from San
Yeah, Yeah, so I think from the East Coast to Paris, which is in the same time zone, is 6 hours. So it'd be 8 hours difference, and probably 9 hours difference, and then 7 hours for you guys here. Yeah. Bangui is. Yeah. Yes, that was actually one of the things I was going to point out. So the trade language of the Central African Republic, if you want to do anything, education, if you want to work a job, if you want to do anything that's in the city, you need to know French. And so it was influenced very heavily by French colonials. And so anything in the city is French. But when you get out into the jungle, into the villages, they all have their different languages in their different areas. So the language that the nannies were speaking there was Sango. The language that's in that particular area where Jonathan's house is Sango. It's probably one of the more common African languages in that area. And a lot of the people who live in those villages don't know French. So that's one of the things that they're doing in the school, is they're trying to teach the kids in the school French so that they have a future of just being able to not having to stay right in their little village, but they could actually go to college, get a degree, and other jobs if they wanted to. To visit? Yeah, I'm hoping to go next year because we need to take a bunch more supplies over there. There's ongoing projects that need to happen for all over the campus. And so, like when I was there, I helped install the solar electrical system. And last June, a lady who's a retired engineer from Washington went out there and installed a pump for a well that ran water up into their water tower so they could have running water on the property. But there's still a lot of other projects need to be done. So there's always, right now I would say there's always a trip or trips in the works to go over there and do work. I think that if you stay connected with Donna from either through the Facebook group or just even I think emails, she'll talk about trips that are going. But I would just say if you're specifically interested in it, you can reach out to Jonathan's house and just say I'm interested, or I have people that are interested in going and helping. What can you put me on a list of how to know about this? When I was talking to Bob Bixby before I left, he's planning on going, and he's like, I'm going right now, and I'm sure there's going to be people who are going to want to go with me. So might be for us, it was about, I'm trying to remember why the cost was what it was and if it would change, but it'd probably be between $4,000 to $5,000. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I've heard nightmares about how much luggage you can carry. How did you get so much over there?
Yeah, so we went on a humanitarian ticket, which took a lot more of a process to get it approved because we had to do all of that pre-approved. But yeah, we went on a humanitarian ticket. It kind of slowed us down as well because when we got to Bangui, again, we'd have to pay off the customs officers to allow us to take stuff in just because they're like, oh, this looks important. This looks expensive. Yeah, they looked through whatever they wanted to look through. They didn't look through everything because there were boxes that were sealed, but they looked through whatever they wanted to look through. Yeah, so Samuel is kind of like, he's been a leader at Jonathan's house for quite a while, even before Donna got there. He was in a short clip of the video. You'll see him in another picture later on. But he met us at the airport, and we had sent money ahead to them to be taken out. And that's something that's interesting as well. The Central African Republic is a cash-only system. And so you might maybe find someone that takes credit card, but it's very unlikely. And they basically have like 2 ATMs in the city of Bangui. So and there's a certain amount of cash that they only keep a certain amount of cash in the ATM. So when we wanted to get money out for our trip, we had to get up super early in the morning to get to the ATM, and then we were only allowed a certain number of transactions. And it was a limited number, so I had to get some money out until I maxed out. Then Bob would have to get some money out until he maxed out, and so it was a tricky, strategic way of trying to make sure we had all the money we need to be able to do what we needed to do. Because we'd also had people that had given money to Jonathan's house that we wanted to give them in cash to be able to have for their expenses. So it's not like we can just Venmo them money and they can pay for the stuff that they need. In order to be able, for them to be able to get money, they've got to go into their bank account, either withdraw it from the bank, or if it goes into a stateside account, they can withdraw from the ATM, but then they have to travel from where they are at Jonathan's house all the way back to Bangui, 3 hours, to the only ATMs in the country, get out the money, and then, you know, it's just it's a lot. And then you have people watching you. You know, even where we went to the ATM, we went to the nicest hotel in the city, and it had guards, and you had to go through a gate and get checked for bombs and stuff. And then we had to go in there, and then that's where one of the two ATMs was, you know. So then you're driving out, and if anybody's watching, they could keep, you know, there's Americans, they went in there, they were only there for 20 minutes, they've got to have cash on them, you know. The other thing that's really hard, and I want to know what my time frame is because I don't want to go over too far.
20 after.
Okay, so I'm not going to be able to show the other video. What I can do...
Let's do it.
Okay, well, what I was going to say is the Central African Republic is... it's the poorest, one of the poorest countries in the world, but it's probably one of the wealthiest in terms of natural resources. It's got diamonds, it's got ore, it's got, and for that reason, there is the presence of countries from all over the world there because they're waiting to swoop in and get whatever they can. That's why it's so unsettled, is because there's so many people there. When Russia, we were there when Russia invaded Ukraine, and there was the Uyghur group, which is a Russian terrorist group, and they have a very strong presence in the CAR. And where we were staying when we first got there was right across the street, as far as from me from this window was the compound of the Uyghurs, and that's where not the Uyghurs, the Wagner group. That's what it was, the Wagner group, and it was right there. And they're in their compound. We drove in. They're waving at us. We're waving at them, and people are sending us texts. Russia just invaded Ukraine. Watch out for the Wagner group. I hear they're in the Central African Republic. And like, yeah, I'm waving to them. They're right here. So there's people from all over the world there because they want to swoop in and take all the resources when they're available. I'll show this, and this will probably take us through to the next. Great, thanks. I'll talk on this one as well. This is a common way that you see workers in the field making their lunch. This is a rubber tree. Tarzan swing on grapevines. They're making peanut butter here. So they harvested the peanuts and now they're making peanut butter. This is how they cook food for all the orphans. This is the kitchen where they cook the food. They're taking a bath every day to stay clean. This is a pretty common scene, the kids taking water from the river back to their villages. This is a garden on Jonathan's house property where they grow vegetables and stuff that they eat. This is the well at the bottom of the hill from Jonathan's house. These are all school kids that are getting water on their lunch break. That was part of the building right there. This is choir practice. When we were there, Bob taught local pastors. They all came to hear him teach on the Bible and how to teach and preach, and so that was him preaching there. They don't know how to do a lot of basic things that we know how to do, including painting. We had a real issue getting the right paint. There's only like one paint store in Bongi, so we had to bring paint. And then one of our guys used to be a professional painter, and he was teaching them how to paint this building. This is the building that a lot of the girls stay in for that are orphans. That's a table saw right there. That's me starting the electrical system that we put in.
Installing the solar panels on the roof. This morning we are installing the solar panels on the roof.
They have devotions every night, and they have like a certain rhythm that they go through. And these are Christian songs and sango that they teach the girls. And many of them are just straight scripture. So this is songs they sing every night.
What about those roads?
A lot of the songs that they sing are old hymns that were written in English. They translated them into sango, and they sing them. So this is "Send the Light" from the hymn book. This church was in a building fundraiser. They've been trying to raise funds to build a brick building. This is what they worship in now. They needed to raise a total of $5,000 American dollars in order to build their building. And they've been working on it for years, about 2 or 3 years now. Our church was we gave them $1,500 to help them with the project. But they were they just couldn't believe that we would give them that. They thought it was so generous to them, but all they needed was $5,000 to build this building, and they were very excited to get that money from us as a church. This is the young man that's going to seminary that is going to be coming back and working in the church that they're planting there at Jonathan's house. They have devotions every morning with the staff, and that's Samuel. He's the one who's been at Jonathan's house for quite a while. But they have these devotions, and not everybody is a Christian, but they have devotions with the staff every morning. And then Donna teaches different men who want to learn how to read, because they never learned how to read, how to read. This is Rebecca and Chris. Super sweet. Came from horrible situations where their parents were killed, and they had no one to go to.
There are 110
There are 110 children in this room. They are being right now silent as mice. Listen. That's the next class next door, and they were louder a second ago. How do you think it's possible to learn in an environment like this? Look again how close these kids are to one another. 110 kids in here. There are 52 children in this room right now. 20 girls, and
Girls are always pushed to the back, and as soon as they can help around the house or bear children, they're taken out of school, and they don't have a chance to learn. So the girls are pushed away, and so this school, they move them up, spread them out, spread them evenly with everyone, just so they have an equal opportunity. So that's just a brief snippet into what's going on there. Thank you so much for your time. I don't want to go any further. We have the morning service, and I'll share a little bit more then. But if you have any questions, I'll be hanging around here. That's what I'm here for. I'd be happy to answer what I can. And if I can't answer it now, I'll try to do what I can to find the answer for you. Yeah, so I'll show pictures of them in the next one, but they, I'll tell more of that story then, but they didn't fare well. Matter of fact, I don't actually know if they if they all passed away, but there was complications with a man in the village who was claiming right over them. The mom wanted to give them up because she couldn't. Basically, the only food that they had, they were 2 years old. They couldn't walk. They were malnourished. They weighed like 17 or 18 pounds. And the only way that they could be fed was she was breastfeeding them all. And she barely had enough food to keep herself alive. And so she was like, I need somebody to feed them. And I'll show pictures of them, but the man was resisting. And I think later, two of them died and one of them they were able to take in, if I remember correctly what happened. So, very sad.
Back there, you have a sign up like news. Well, you don't.
Oh man, I should do it. I'll tell you what. We'll get a piece of paper out there, and before you go, if you want to get information, sign up there. I have some cards back there because this is not my normal thing. I tried to do the best I can to put something together. There's cards back there that I had printed at Walgreens, and you can take those. They have information on them. The shirts were shirts that were custom made for me, and they're back there. You can see those as well. There's fans that were made by the villagers, and then the painting was a painting done by somebody there. So enjoy those. Yep. We'll see you in just a little bit.